Right guys, so welcome back to part 10 of our top-down RPG series. We're going to be focusing today on the player knockback effects based on the enemy touching him and projectiles, etc. And then we're going to be doing a little bit of optimization as well. I'm going to start with the optimization first, purely on the basis that it's going to be good practice for you guys to slowly get dictionaries and local storage into the system. The game's starting to grow, and using instant variables to manage all of that is going to be time consuming and not good practice. So we want to bring in the starting data. We want to make sure that we check the local storage to find the starting data, and then we want to go and fill the dictionary to be able to use that data throughout the game. So that's what we're going to focus on first. So let's jump straight into it. I'm going to go ahead and just delete our, not delete, but I'm going to hide our shadow so that when we are playing the game, we don't have this black shadow, so you can see what's going on. Right, and then I'm going to jump over onto the event sheets. Now I'm going to start a new event sheet, just to let you know. I'm going to go ahead and add event sheet, and I'm going to call this main. That's going to be our main event sheet moving forward. All right. And also guys, keep case sensitive. If you're going to work case sensitive or not, I haven't done that yet. Make sure keep everything structured. You know, if it's going to be first letter case sensitive, I suggest just sticking with a similar pattern throughout the game so that the logic makes sense. All right, this I'm going to have to just tidy up, but I'll do that off screen. Let's go ahead and just quickly add include the other event sheets to this. Let's right click and include and player. And then I'm going to go over to the player one, and I'm going to just delete the effects. Okay. Now you just need to go over to your layout and ensure on your layout that you have the right one. There currently it's calling player. Make sure that it's calling main, because main carries both player and effects. If you don't have it set, you're not going to get the effects in the other tutorial we did. Alright, so just make sure that's set. Right, so now that that's set, let's go ahead and work with this. Now the first thing we want to do is tidy up our objects as well. So we're going to go here to objects, add a folder. I'm going to call it system. This is going to be my system things. I'm going to go ahead and drag my keyboard and my mouse. I'm going to put that straight into system. Then I'm going to go and add two new objects. Dictionary being one, and another one being local storage. Local storage, fantastic. Then I'm going to want to start a new global variable here. So I'm going to go ahead and add a global variable. And I'm going to call this game start or game initialized, if you whatever you want. You call it whatever you prefer, but I want to get some sort of structure so we know when the game starts, we know where we're at. Game initialized, fantastic. Now we're going to add just a new group like we always do, just to keep the structure going. Add group, and let's call that data, because now what we're going to do is we're going to check to see if the data exists. If it doesn't exist, create the data, save the data. If the data does exist, go ahead and fetch the data from local storage and fill the dictionary. So that this dictionary is going to be a long array of dictionary. You can call it array or whatever you like, a dictionary theoretically, but it has a certain amount of keys and characters and strings that's going to be attached here, so we can use all the data that sits in here, calling one function. So let's go ahead and say system, and let's go ahead and check between compare a variable, and let's say game is equal to 0. Then let's go and set that variable, because now the game starts. I'll go through the logic with you slowly. Set value, and let's call it to 1. And then we can go ahead and start local storage. Well, not start local storage, but check the local storage. Go local storage, just type it in, make it a bit faster. Local storage, and we want to check an item exists. And we want to call this item, let's call it save data. Right, so that's my save data. Okay, done. So it reads as follows. Game initializes because it's set to 0. If it is set to 0, which it is, set it to 1, and then go and see if the data exists. Okay. Now, knowing that the data does not exist, we're going to basically say local storage, add a new event. Add a new event, I'm going to go local again, local storage. On item missing, and we're going to call that item, obviously, save data, because that's the item that is missing, it's not set yet. Go ahead and do a function. Now, before I put the function in here, I need to create the function. So let's right click, let's add a function, and let's call this function save data, and set the default. Set the default. Set default. Right. Save data. Let's keep it all unified. Save data and set default. Fantastic. So that's the function we're going to be calling. Now we can go ahead and call that function. So let's go and add a new one. Click on functions, and there you'll see it there. Save data. So now we know that when this data is missing, when the game starts, run this function, and then we're going to put some stuff in here. So yeah, what we're going to want to do is set the dictionary. That's the data. The dictionary is going to hold the data that we're going to be using in the game. That is like the player health, the gems, how much starting coins, etc. So let's go and do that now and say set the dictionary, type the dictionary, and we're going to add a key. And the first key I want to add is, for instance, max health. What is the max health of the player? In this case, I'm just going to set it to 20. And we know that on the start of this game, that's the max health. Then I'm going to go ahead and set the health itself, because you need to know what the health is throughout the game. If you set by 1, subtract 1, etc., we need to know the whole time. So let's go ahead and set dictionary, add a key, and yeah, we're going to do something slightly different. So I'm going to go health, and then let's just make that also case. I'll try and keep a structure as well moving forward. Practice what you preach. And yeah, we're going to basically do something different. I'm going to go self.get, right? And then I'm going to go and get a value from this. So in this case, I'm going to get the max health value, because I know that that's the max health to start the game with. I need to have max health. And I'm getting that because it's set already before, right? So in that case, I'm just saying health, set it to the max health value, if that makes sense. Right, so yeah, you can go ahead and add all your different things. Now what we need to do is create what we like to call a load event, in terms of, okay, the data does exist, let's load an event. So we're going to go there and we're going to go, let's keep it within, yeah, actually. Add event, and we're going to go load data, the local storage. So we're going to go on item exist, and that we're going to call save data. So let's say the game crashed or something, or stage 2, and the data does exist, run this function, right? So in other words, it will ignore this function because the item is not missing, it does exist, so we need to do something here. And yeah, we can basically go local storage again, local storage, and yeah, we're going to want to get item, because we know that the item is called save data, and then we need to load it, and then we basically can go here again on item local storage, on item get, it should be on item get, and here we go, save data, I'll reach it now, save data, go and load the dictionary, and that we do as follows. We go dictionary, load from JSON, where is this load, and yeah, we basically say local storage, in this case, which we just set is, because we're working with local storage, we're going to go local storage, and it should just pop up, local storage, here it is, local storage dot item value, should just pop up, right, fantastic. And that's as simple as that. So we know when it exists, go and load it straight into the dictionary. Right, so that is our starting items, if you want to call it that. Now, this just allows us to get the game started, and as we grow the game, yeah, we're going to basically go and set all these great values, starting coins, for argument's sake, prices in shops of certain items. This is what we're going to be using this dictionary, and that everywhere in our event sheets, we can go ahead and call this dictionary and take certain variables out without having to work out, okay, the player, that attaching it to the instant variable of the player. Instant variables are needed, but needed for different things, and more of a lightweight scenario opposed to the global dictionary stage events, if that makes sense. Okay, so we've got that. That's not going to do anything to the code in that sense, but now we can basically hop along to the player. And let's go to, let's say player, because now we know what his health is, essentially, because it's in the dictionary. Right, so what we're going to need to do is add an instant variable to our player. Now I'm going to go ahead and just rename this to player, just player. Right, not player animation, and that is, well, I'm going to rename that to enemy. Enemy, let's call it slime. Right, this makes a bit more sense. Right, so player, there he is. Let's go ahead and add an instant variable. And let's call this instant variable knockback timer. Let's keep that as a number, would be fine. We could do it as a boolean, but let's keep it as a number. And then let's also create another one, which will be the hurt timer. This will just tell us, if he's hurting, we can count down, etc. Right, and that's the hurt timer. Fantastic. Now we can go ahead and create a new function. Now currently in our player, you'll see that on a collision with an enemy, we basically flash the player, which we can't see, we have the base set to hidden. Flash the player, and then wait 5 seconds and then destroy it. So if I go ahead and run this, if he goes ahead and touches this enemy, he's going to flash, you'll see, and then he destroys himself. Okay, the game starts over. Now this is going to want to change. So now we're going to create, like as I said to you, functions. And this is where basically having a separate group for our functions is better practice, so that when we use those functions globally, it's a lot neater. Right, so yeah, you can see we've got the enemy one, which is just staying stagnated for now. I'm just going to go ahead and you'll see that's just stagnated where we had it last. I'm going to just toggle that out, toggle disabled for now. And I'm just going to go ahead and add a new function. Right, so the new function we're going to call is basically, let's call it player hurt function. Right, that is our new function. And we're going to need to basically add a local variable to this. So I'm going to right click this as well and add a perimeter. And that perimeter needs to be damage. Okay. And I keep it as a number. Now the reason for that is that we're going to want to pass the damage through this function to this player hurt. So if the player is fighting a slime, let's say then we subtract 1 if the slime guy touches him. But let's say he fights a boss and he does more damage and we want to subtract 5 or 2 or 3. We're passing that variable through here so that it knows what to subtract from this player. That's why it's so important to ensure that that variable or perimeter is passed correctly. So I'm just going to add another group here just so it doesn't annoy me. Add, let's say, group, and I want to call this player underscore player functions. Okay, and then we can basically go ahead and drag that underneath here just so that it's all a bit more tidy. And eventually I want to move all the functions underneath here so that we have it a lot more neater. Okay. Right, so now that we've got that function, we can basically add a sub-event. Now, we need to just check the dictionary because it's obviously our key. So here we basically go add sub-event, and we're going to go dictionary, and then we need to check a key, compare a value, and we're going to go key that we want to check is the health, obviously. So we're going to go health, and we're going to go is greater than 0, obviously, because if it's not greater than 0, we need to create a, well, this basically needs to do nothing. If it's greater than 0, the damage, we need to ensure that the death, or you could say the player death function needs to play. So if it is, the health is greater than 0, do the hurting, which we're going to do, but if it's not, ensure that we kill the player. Right, so once we've got that function, now we can start the certain functions that's important. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and we're going to disable, I think, the player movement. Let's disable the player from basically walking if he gets hurt. So I'm going to go deactivate player movement. I'm just going to copy paste it. I'm just basically doing what I did on the left click. So I'm going to say deactivate that, and then let's set the knockback. So we go to player, and let's go set an instant variable, set the value. And let's take the hurt timer, which we're going to probably do both, but let's say the knockback timer, and let's set that to 0.4 for now. Click done. Right, that means he's hurting because we're going to need that to check that. And then furthermore, I want to set the hurt timer because he is currently hurt. Right, so let's go player again, and set the value, and his hurt timer, and we'll set that to 1. Okay, for now. So basically what's happening here is, again, he's gotten hit. We're going to disable his movement that the player can't use him. We're going to set the knockback timer to 0.4, and then we're going to set the hurt timer to 0.1. Right, so basically that's just a great way to start so we know that the player is hurting, etc. Right. The next thing we need to do is subtract from the player the health, obviously. So in this case, we're going to go dictionary. We can put this all in here. We're going to go dictionary, add key, and we're going to go health, because that's the player's health. And here we're going to say self.get current health, which is important in case it gets hit from multiple places. Current health, which is the health, set it to itself. And we're going to go health, and we're going to then subtract damage. Okay, damage being the local variable that is passed through the function. Right, so when we call this hurt, we know what we know what this damage is because we have to call a function by passing a perimeter. So what we're saying is go and fetch his current health first, so we know that it's accurate. It's almost like checking itself. Set it, and then subtract 1. Okay, that way we know what the last value was. If we don't do that and we keep subtracting 1, we might not know what the previous. So let's say we get hit simultaneously. or milliseconds apart, it will think that the last one was, 18 or 20, whatever we set it at, and then it's subtracting 1 and then it ends up being 19. So this will be more accurate if we set it this way opposed to the other way. Right, so let's go ahead and test that. So what we need to do is go to our enemy bases. It's probably going to be in the family, enemy family. Let's go ahead and add an instant variable, and let's call it a damage. Let's call it new one, and we're going to call it damage. And in this case, let's hit OK, and then we can go and set each one differently now that we know what the damage is. So now that we know that this enemy base 2 and enemy base 1, so it's like enemy base 2 is going to be 2 damage, and enemy base 1, the one guy, is going to be 1 damage. Right, so the guy that comes to me, he's going to subtract twice. Now, on the collision event that we have here is quite cool, because now all we need to do, instead of saying destroy, which we're not going to do, we're not going to flash him for now either, we're not going to restart the layout either, and we're not going to wait a couple of seconds, which we can do down here. We can add it there. We're going to just remove that as well. Now we're just going to have a simple function. Click on functions, and we're going to call this function, which is the player hurt, and then the damage is going to be basically enemy bases dot, and then we'll find the damage, and there it is, and that is it. We're passing the damage that's set in the instant variable of each one that's set differently. That one's set to 2, set to 1. It's a global variable. It's passed through this function. It comes through here, and then we use it over here to subtract from there. So we're doing something, and then that's where we are subtracting. Right, let's go ahead and test that quickly. So we go debug view. Right, there's our player. There's the dictionary. There it's set to 20 from the start, as well as the max health. Now, if I go and touch this guy, I should see he's got 2 damage, and this one's got 1. If I touch him, I should see this go to 18. So let's go ahead, and bang, there we go, 18. So that's the amount of damage he's doing to me, and the system, you can see now the keyboard's not working because we've deactivated that. As you can see here on the knockback, we've said deactivate. Okay, right, let's go and add this miscellaneous knockback effect so that we can re-enable the, you could say, the player movement. So let's go and add a sub-event. Let's go to player, where is player, and let us check this variable. So we're going to go to compare an instant variable, which is the knockback, and make sure that it is greater than 0. Okay, and then if it is, let's go to player, set it, because in case he touches him again, set this value to delta dt. Okay, now we need to, sorry, that shouldn't be subtract, my bad. Subtract from, that should be dt, so subtract dt from delta, that's right, from knockback. Then we need to add another one, which is basically a dictionary. So add another condition, and let's go dictionary. We need to compare a value, and we need to compare the value health. So we're going to go health, and we want to make sure that it is in fact greater than 0, because if it's not, then effectively he's dead. Okay, so that's your first one. Go ahead and dt. Then we can add a sub-event. I'll read this to you now again. Let's add a sub-event, and let's go to player, knockback timer, compare the variable, compare the instant variable. The knockback timer is smaller or greater, less or equal to 0. Then we want him to do something. Okay. And let's add a condition there, maybe just trigger that only once in case it's coming past. So let's add another condition, system trigger once while true. Okay, there we go. So yeah, we can go ahead now and hit the knockback effect. So I'm going to do very similar to what I did for the enemy, just to show you the enemy AI, this little cause and sin movement. I'm going to do the same with regards to the kickback, the knockback. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go basically player, or it's player base because it's on there. We're going to set the X. So then we're going to go angle, and then we're going to go self, obviously, because it's himself, self.x, comma, self.y, and where we're going to go to the enemy bases, which is the families, enemies bases dot x, and yeah, we're also going to do the enemy bases dot y, and we're going to close that off, and then we're going to basically, let's try plus 180 to start, and we can multiply that by 200. Should work. Fantastic. And then we're going to go ahead and just duplicate that and set the y-axis back. Set the y-axis to do the same. And that needs to be side. Good. Right, so now we need to add 2 more things. Oh, but before we do that, it's an error. So let's go and change that to knockback. Sorry. Let's go and add the max speed. We just need to set the player max speed as well. So let's set max speed, and we can set that to, I think, what is going to be the best? Let's set that to 200 because it needs to be quicker. And then let's set the deceleration because I think it's currently set to 500. We can leave the deceleration maybe to 500 as well, or to 3000. Doesn't matter. So let's do that, and let's see if the guy gets knocked back. So theoretically what's going to happen is if this guy touches me, I should be going backwards. There we go. So there's the knockback effect, but we're basically going to do something within this action, but that's what we want. Right, so what we need to do is the flashing, but before we do that, let's just make sure, because we did have flash enabled. Yeah, we did have flash enabled there. Let's go and remove this flash behavior. I want to remove that quickly. That might give me an error. Okay, fantastic. So I've removed the flash behavior. I want to add it to the player. So I'm going to add it here as a behavior. Behavior, flash. There it is. So we got it on the player. Then I want to just move this up. This should actually be, as he gets hurt, I want him to move back. I want to set the speed of deceleration. Just make sure that he's working like it should. I don't want it to be on the knockback effect. There we go. So he's getting hurt, he's moving back. Fantastic. Have another event here. Let's click this add event. Let's go player again. In fact, let me do this. Let's go player here. And let's add a flash first. Flash. Let's make that 0.5 both times for now. And then we're going to do this as infinity because we don't need it on a timer. We need to make sure that once he's hurt, we basically cannot get hurt again. So he's flashing, and then on the hurt timer, let's go and add event. Let's go player, and we can compare the variable, compare an instant variable, which is going to be this hurt variable, and we're going to make sure that it is in fact greater than 0. Click done. Then we need to do what we did here, similar. Go player again, player, subtract dt, subtract from the hurt timer. We're going to put that as delta time, dt. Okay. Then we can add a sub event here. Add a sub event. And let's go player, compare instant variable, and let's go that is the hurt timer, and let's select is less or equal to 0. And let's click done, and then add it also just to trigger once. So add another condition. System trigger once, trigger while true, and then here we can stop the flashing basically. So here we can enable the player movement, as well as the player movement we can actually leave there. That's fine, but let's at least enable the flashing. So we go player, flash, and flash stop. Cool. So we got player, flash, stop. And we can also change the animation if we need to. So I'm going to hide from this guy because this guy's a lot slower because he's going to keep coming. So let's quickly do this, run past him. He won't follow me, no blind spot. Now I should flash, disappear. There we go, and I run away, I'm back. I'm obviously a lot faster because I have to set the accelerate. There we go, I'm back again. But you'll notice that I'm a lot quicker only because I haven't set the... Right, that's quite good, and it should knock me back. There we go. Right, so it needs a little bit of tailoring. Let's just do that quickly. So let's go ahead and set the speed back once the knockback is completed. So we've got the player. Here you can see the input control. So now we need to go back and set the player's details back to, you could say, stock. So let's go to player base and see what that is. So it's 80 max speed, acceleration 600. So let's go ahead and copy that and set that on the player movement. Set that back to 90 because we need it to be slow. It's too quick now. Right, fantastic. Then let's set the flash to a lot slower because this was obviously a lot too quick. So let's go and set this to 0.05. And that'll give us a lot quicker flash. So let's go ahead and test that quickly. Right, so I'm going to hide from this little guy. Let him come past me. He's getting stuck there. We need to work on him as well. So I'm going to hide from him. And now I should flash a lot quicker. Let's see what happens. There we go. That's what we wanted. Kicks me back and the flash stops. But in the chance of I kick back, I can't do anything. So only when I'm non-flashing can I then move again. But I can't move when I'm actually being kicked back. Right, so that's perfect. So that is our knockback effect, guys, with regards to the enemy. It's also subtracting, just to let you know, from the dictionary. This can get a little bit of work. You'll notice that he's still moving here. That's because I don't have the idle set left to right. But you guys get the idea of creating these type of effects so that we know that once we're hit by the enemy, that we knock back, disable the movement as we've done here, and then re-enable the movement once the knockback timer is back to 0 again. Right, guys, so the last thing you want to do is just add a boolean. So I'm going to click on the player, and the reason for this is I don't want him to get hurt again when he's being hurt, if that makes sense, because we're not checking that. So let's just type hurt. Let's run boolean. Let's capital that. And initially it's set to false because he's not hurt. As he gets hurt, let's go ahead and set it to true. So we're going to go player set boolean to hurt equal true, and then after the flash we can go and say player system player set boolean, and we can set that back to false. And then we need to just make sure that it is not true on the collision. We add one, another condition, and we say player compare this instant variable is hurt, and just invert it is not hurt, and that is it. So if we go ahead and test it now, I should be able to walk through while flashing, because remember the flash is set to a longer time than the actual getting knocked back. So if I go there, I can walk through him, and there I'm hurt again, I can walk, and that is now perfect. See, he doesn't get hurt again when he's actually being hurt. So that's a perfect example. Right, guys, I hope you enjoyed it. We're going to be focusing a lot more on the, obviously, play animations and killing these enemies, etc. You know, the stuff that I know you guys are quite keen. But this was a vital point in our tutorial to ensure that the dictionary is set, that we can go ahead now and start adding all our values now that it's all geared up and ready to go. So I'm really looking forward to the next couple of tutorials, because we're going to be making more damage. Within this hurt function, we're going to basically have the kill function of the player as well that needs to come in. We're going to be spawning elements such as the bow and arrows and different types of weapons that we're going to want to use. So we're slowly making the transition to something great. As I said, now that we've got our player functions, eventually I'm going to shift all these things, guys, don't stress. Animations, they're going to be all shifted to the individual events so that we know where to manage them. Enemies is not going to be in the same as players. But for now, on the start of the series, as this, you could say, game starts getting larger, we're going to move them to their respective places, and then you guys will see it starts making a lot more sense and starts looking a lot more tidy. But as always, guys, if you could hit the subscribe and the little thumbs button, that'd be greatly appreciated, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.